Hello friends and fellow travelers, and thank you for joining me on this journey. This video is my check-in for the months of March, April, and May. I started 2020 as a replacements only no-buy year with the additional goals to save $15,000. And then in late January, I added the goal to pay off $10,000 of my car loan, which would almost entirely pay off my car loan. I have been working from home since March 17th. I am so thankful to have a job where I can work from home and where I am still receiving a paycheck. So I've had the chance to do a lot of reflection, a lot of just slowing down, working through my life and how I got to where I am now. And, I've come to a lot of amazing realizations that things have finally clicked for me, and I know what my path forward is. So I'm going to share that in this video, along with the ways that my goals have changed, how I've spent my money in 2020 compared to 2019. Those two things will take up kind of the beginning of the video, and then at the end of the video I'll get into just kind of how everything has clicked for me in these last couple months and what my path forward is. Let's start with how my goals have changed over the past few months. So I came up with a goal of saving $15,000 based on my salary from 2019. Now that was my take-home salary of my base salary and my bonus. And to be quite honest, I received my bonus in March, and I was going to just take my entire bonus, put it in a high yield savings account, and that was almost gonna satisfy the goal of saving a $15,000 emergency fund. And I am so very thankful for everything that I did get, because a part of me for a little while thought that I wasn't gonna get anything, but my bonus was cut in half. So I did take most of that and put that into a high yield savings account. I have been able to add to that since then, since March. Right now my balance is $7,500, and my goal is to build it to $10,000. Now, as long as my job remains the same, I will be able to do that within the next couple of months. Right now there's speculation of layoffs and furloughs and all that kind of stuff, but when I think of that, I think of like, oh, now I have this emergency fund that I can, handle whatever comes up, whatever comes my way. So hopefully I won't have to dip into that emergency fund. Hopefully that will just continue to be there for me, but if I do, it's there. And I feel very fortunate to have what I have right now. I also decided to go ahead and max out my 401k and Roth IRA contributions rather than putting that money toward my car loan. Right now, while the market is, low and declined, I think the more money that I can put into those types of accounts, the better return I will see in the future. I went from contributing $600 a month to $2,000 a month. So most of my money right now is just being shoved into savings. Another goal I'm adding is to find a less expensive place to live. I absolutely love my apartment. It's my dream home. I love the area I live in. I love the amenities at my apartment. We have this amazing pool. I hope I get to spend time in it this summer, but my lease is up in November and I'm paying close to $2,000 a month for rent for this place. From what I am seeing, I can get a place similar to this. I may have to add 10 or 15 minutes to my commute both ways, but I will also be able to save, $600 to $700 per month is my target. I'll be able to take all of that money I'm saving and put that toward, next year toward my car loan and my student loan, or maybe into more savings. We'll see what happens when I get there. And again, this is assuming that I still have a job. With my lease being up in November, I'll be signing a new lease right around September, and Obviously, I'm not gonna be able to go get a new place if I don't have a job. So I'm just keeping all of these, you know, contingencies in mind, trying to make plans. But yeah, right now I think that finding a less expensive place to live is the best way to maximize my salary. Also, as I kind of hinted at the beginning of this video, I didn't say thank you for joining me on my 2020 no-buy journey. I said thank you for joining me on my journey because in all reality, these last, you know, 3 months, March, April, May, I have been on a low buy. I've spent about $100 to $150 every month on things that were on my initial no-buy list. It's been rough. I've been alone. I've been going through rough times, and the things that I've bought are bringing me immense joy. And you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because everything else is on track, and I think we'll see this in this next section of how my spending has changed from 2019 to 2020. Like, I'm allowing myself these things and I'm not getting upset about it. I'm okay with it. Obviously, again, I may have to revisit that change and say, no, I need to go back on to a no buy. But for the time being, you know, I'm comfortable with how I'm shopping and what I'm doing, and I'm comfortable with letting myself, you know, have a few nice things in this time that is so very trying for everyone. So let's talk about how I spent my money in 2020 compared to how I spent my money in 2019. So I'll just pull up these graphs, and this one is 2019, this one is 2020, and right off the bat, let's just look at Amazon. So in 2019, I spent 5.23% at Amazon. This year, I've spent 0%. Hobbies and gear, last year I spent 3.59%. This year, 0%. Vacation and travel, obviously I haven't done any of that this year, so that is 20%. This little bit that I did spend came back to me because I had reserved some camping spots down at the sand dunes in Colorado at the beginning of the year, and they refunded that to me because those camp spots are closed right now. So grocery, let's look at grocery, Costco, and delivery services and restaurants. All of that adds up to about 11% for food, and I thought that that was a lot of money for one person to be spending on food. This year on grocery and Costco and dining out, I've spent about $6 on, or 6% on food. So that was a huge savings. My waistline can tell it as well that I haven't been spending as much on food as on junk food, and that was kind of one of the things that I had started out the year on my list of things that I was not going to buy was junk food, because I was binging a lot at the end of last year. When COVID-19, when it started to seem like things were gonna, you know, close down, I did go to Costco and kind of stock up. I had spent the very beginning of the year kind of emptying out my freezer and my pantry and everything, so that I was just kind of every couple days going to the grocery store and buying small amounts of food that I just needed for a couple days. But like I said, once it looked like everything was going to shut down, I did go and buy a reasonable amount of food to maybe, you know, stock up my freezer for a month. And I didn't go back to Costco for, I think, 6 weeks. I didn't go back to Costco. So, and I didn't go to the grocery store or anything like that. So I really did, you know, stock up on things, and then pretty much didn't leave the house unless I was walking my dogs. So anyways, so let's just get back to this. Homewares and plants. I spent 4.2%. Homewares and plants this year was 2.41%. And again, I did spend a few dollars on plants in March, and I also had to replace a humidifier that had broken, and I did replace my pillows. They were causing me a lot of back and neck pain, so I did get new Tempur-Pedic pillows. So that goes into part of that. So let's see here, what else? Clothing and accessories at 3.36%. This year I've spent 0.63%, and that was on another thing the thing that I spent my money on in April were some replacement swimsuits. All my swimsuits, when I was going through them, just looked frumpy and gross and ugly, and they were 10 years old, so I just kind of did a refresh of my swimsuits, and that is the thing that I spent, my $150 on in April. So that goes to that. Let's see here. Okay, so let's just look at this. Debt payoff, 18.33%. Extra debt payoff in 2019, 0. Savings, this is what I'm most proud of. Savings, 25%. Savings last year, 0. This is what I am just most proud of. And this savings is after my 401k. I'm not including that in any of this. Like, all of this is just take home. The 401k is obviously extracted before I get my paycheck, so I'm not counting that in these graphs. So this is 25% of my take-home salary has gone into savings, and I'm so thankful for that. I'm so very happy about that. So yeah, that progress is ridiculous. I am so very proud of that, and I can't believe it. It's still kind of unbelievable that I am here right now, because it's something that I've wanted for a very, very long time. And I am being so careful about keeping track of all of this, and I'm actually starting to enjoy every 2 weeks, 3 weeks coming back and going through my bank statement and putting this into the spreadsheet and making this graph. So this is another huge change for me. This is something I've never done in my entire life. I'm about to turn 40. I've never, ever kept track of where my money is going. And even though I didn't release a March and April check-in video, doing this still kept me accountable as to where my money was going and how much money I was actually spending. Hello, I'm back. I took a little bit of time to edit those first 2 parts that you just watched while my batteries were charging for my camera, and while I gather my thoughts, because this next section, just kind of going over the journey, I think is going to be difficult. I have some notes, but I'll try to get through it as best as I can and try to, just convey what I've realized, these huge self-realizations I've come to, and hopefully, yeah, I can tell a good story. So when I started this project, I was really focused on the stuff, all of the stuff in my life, this addiction to shopping for things. It was a shopping addiction, it was compulsive shopping, it was impulsive shopping, and I really thought that I just had this problem trying to fill my life with all these things to like fill some hole or whatever. And then I started to think about my shopping cycle and all of these things that I bought that were just impulsive. It was just in the moment, I bought them. I didn't even think about it. So it wasn't like all of these things that I had been pining after, that I really, really, really wanted them. I saved up to get them. They were super important to me. Most of the things in my life, to be honest, were an impulsive purchase. Even though like looking at them sometimes brings joy to me, sparks joy. Like, I love the way that my apartment is decorated, like I said before, and just there was a disconnect between me and all of these things that I have, all of this stuff that I own, which is what I was really trying to focus on. Then in March, I opened that savings account and I put all that money in that savings account, and I was like, okay, there's my emergency fund. There I have it. You know, I'm gonna keep adding it to it until I get $10,000, and there it is. This is something that I've wanted for years and years and years and years, something that I've wanted to be able to do, but never had the ability to do it. Then I got this really weird feeling. I got this just sick anxiety, like, oh my God, I have to spend that money. Like, I was having this massive cognitive dissonance about, you know, having that money in my possession. Like, I just felt like I needed to spend it. Like, I had to spend it. I didn't care what I had to spend it on. I had already established the fact that I have enough stuff. That's when I really started to realize that it wasn't all the stuff that this money could buy. It was the money itself that I had an issue with. And I had never even considered, you know, never even thought about my relationship with money. You know, I've always made this joke like, oh yeah, I hate money. I actually hate money. As soon as I have it, I try to get rid of it as quickly as possible. And that's a joke, but you know, when I really examine that statement, I mean, it's true. Like, I have some weird thing in my brain where I have to spend money. Like, I do not feel comfortable having money. Then I started to research, you know, dysfunctional money relationship problems, and I came across a couple of articles online. Everything just clicked into place. All the puzzle pieces were there for me to move forward, for me to find a space where I am comfortable in my financial pursuits, and really figure out where this dysfunction, where this need to just spend all this money on just really anything came from. So I've broken this next part down into kind of 3 sections. The first is I'm gonna go through this cycle that I identified in myself of my spending cycle. And then I'm gonna go into where does this cycle come from? And finally, how can I break this cycle? Okay, so I'm calling this my money cycle. It's something that I identified in myself, and it's really helped me to identify when I'm going there and that it's unhealthy and that I need to kind of pull back a little bit and reevaluate. So I started recognizing this cycle way back in January. Drew it out. Let me flash it up here. It's kind of messy, but we can go through it together. So day 1, I'm going to call that payday. Day 1 is when I click buy on all of those shopping carts that I've been creating and curating over the last week. And this is like kind of day 1, 2, 3. I pay my bills. I will usually take a trip to a couple different places: Target, Costco, the grocery store, maybe TJ Maxx, maybe the plant nursery near my house, and just kind of go wild and start spending a lot of money. And I'm just feeling great. I just have all this money to spend, and I'm spending it. I'm seeing something I want and I'm buying it, and that just feels fantastic. So days 2 through 5, the next week or so, I am checking the shipping updates for all of those purchases I've made. Going back to the websites and just looking at those things and obsessing over them and thinking about what it's gonna be like when I get them and when I have them. And that's something that I do. I just kind of obsess about all of those purchases that I've made and when are they gonna get here and how am I gonna feel when it happens. And then when they finally get there, just to rush home and open those boxes. And this is all kind of like the dopamine part of the cycle, where I'm just getting tons of dopamine hits, buying things, receiving things, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like the first half of the cycle. And then the second half of the cycle, which is like week 2, days 6 through 8, kind of the disappointment and the regret starts to set in. You know, I don't have a lot of money left in my checking account. Usually I leave about maybe $50 to $100 in there for the next week before I get paid. Regret for all of those things start to set in. I might start returning a few things because I'm worried about money. Anxiety starts to build, and this is kind of when I start to buy some junk food to start binge on and start to curate carts again. And this is kind of when I start obsessing about all of the things that I want to buy the next time I get paid. This is when a lot of anxiety and stress starts building up because one, I have very little money in my account, and two, like I just really want to buy these things. I want to get back to that space where I'm just, you know, boom, 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 buying whatever the heck I want. So, and then you can see the arrow goes back. We start all the way over at day one on payday, and like I said, this is a bi-weekly cycle that I was in. On one front, the underlying anxiety of not having an emergency fund was kind of gone, but then it was replaced by this anxiety like, you have to spend this money. Why do you have this money? This isn't the person that you are. You are a person that spends all your money. And why do you have this money laying around? Like, you need to spend it. I have become more comfortable, obviously, with the fact that I have an emergency fund and that money is just there and I'm not touching it. I don't know how long my job is gonna last. So that, you know, immediate threat has really helped me to become comfortable with the fact that I have an emergency fund. But at the same time, I'm looking to the future and I'm like, oh, well, you know, if all this works out and if I still have a job, like maybe I can use some of that money to go on a trip or something like that. Like I'm still like trying to talk myself into spending that money. So where does all this come from? Once I realized this and realized, you know, it's not the stuff, the real underlying issue here is the money. I started, like I said, to research money disorders, relationship with money, and the first thing I came across was an article from Psychology Today called "Do You Have a Money Disorder?" And it's written by a Dr. Brad Klontz, and I did read his book also, Mind Over Money, but right now I just kind of want to get into just this article that I'm just going to read a little bit of it. So just about everyone has a complicated relationship with money. Studies show that money is a common area of conflict for couples, even before the recession, and this was written in 2008, so it was the recession before this recession. 3 out of 4 Americans identified money as the #1 source of stress in their lives. The average American seemed to suffer from a money disorder. Money disorders are persistent patterns of self-destructive and self-limiting financial behaviors. I believe that they result from the distorted beliefs about money we develop from our financial flashpoint experiences. Financial flashpoints are painful, distressing, and are dramatic life events associated with money that are so emotionally powerful, they leave a lasting imprint. And once I read this, I was like, oh my God, yes, that is the missing piece of the puzzle for me. And he goes on to say, whether it's a childhood of poverty or want, a message about money internalized from a parent, a nest egg lost to an economic downturn later in life, or someone rushing in at the last moment to save the economic day, everyone has experienced a financial flashpoint in their lives. Recognizing them is the first step in stripping them of their power. Then we can learn to identify our money beliefs, spot them when they are creeping into our minds, and revise them into healthier, more productive ones. Because I have been alone for these last 2 months, I've had a lot of time for self-reflection. I've thought about this flashpoint, this financial flashpoint in depth, And it's always something that I knew, but I thought that it was just, a silly thing that teenagers go through, just going through life. Everybody experiences this. And my financial flashpoint was being the poor kid at a rich kid's school. I'm so thankful for the education that my parents were able to afford me for going to this school, but at the same time, they were spending all of their money on my tuition, and I didn't have the cool clothes. I didn't have the cool car. I didn't have any of that. I always felt less than. I was kind of the outsider on this pretty popular girls circle. It's just like part of growing up. It's part of life, having an awkward teenage experience, an awkward high school experience. But when I really think about it, like being that person who I was in high school really shaped the way that I feel about money and the way that I feel about spending money. He then goes on to outline the 3 categories of money disorders. I'm just gonna read the one that I fall under, which is number 2, it's money worshiping. And this includes pathological gambling, workaholism, and overspending, which is what I fall into, the category that I fall into, overspending. So, hoarding is under this. It's when stockpiling objects or money provides a sense of safety, security, and relief of anxiety. And then compulsive buying obviously is overspending on steroids. Compulsive shoppers are consumed by their money worries. They often learned early in life that the ritual of shopping provides a temporary escape from worry and anxiety. So I remember having those experiences of escaping with shopping when I was a teenager. I would go spend a couple weeks with one of my aunts that lived in a different state. And she was, the wealthy aunt, and she would take me out and we would go on shopping sprees and I would be able to get whatever I wanted. And I remember the bliss and the joy and just the satisfaction and just pure elation that would bring to be able to just go out and just buy whatever you wanted. And then when I got back home and I was, back to school with all my friends who were doing that all the time, and I was back to, kind of just living with whatever I had. I don't want to sound ungrateful for any of that, but that's kind of where I can identify just the beginning of this cycle, just the joy of having money and being able to go out and see something, whether it be on the internet or whether it be in person, and just be like, oh, I want that, I'm gonna buy it, and just do it. And just that feeling of just like, yes, I'm this person who can, see something and just buy it. So now that I have identified this cycle and identified this financial flashpoint, how do I break this cycle? And I'm kind of already starting it. I'm kind of already there. Recognizing its power and stripping this financial flashpoint of its power, is the first point. And I've been doing that. Anytime I kind of feel myself slipping back into that obsessive, impulse buying mindset where like, oh, I gotta go spend all this money, I kind of take a step back and I'm like, wait, you're not that person anymore. You don't have to spend that money. Now you're the person that saves all this money. I've been comfortable with that for maybe just a couple of weeks now. Like, this is all very brand new to me. I'm also remembering the feeling of resentment I have towards kind of the things that I've purchased, that kind of put me into that second part of my cycle of regret for purchasing them, of regret for not saving the money. And I'm trying to keep that at the surface, that I would really start to regret and resent buying all of those things. And they really just turned into clutter and junk in my life. So I think that's just like slowing down in my shopping and being more intentional in the items that I do buy, and also obviously not buying very much stuff compared to how much I used to, has really given me that joy that an object can spark. I'm also kind of noticing a new cycle starting. So when I first had that savings account, I was checking it obsessively. I mean, maybe even every 10 minutes. For maybe the first couple weeks, I was checking it all the time. Now I'm just kind of thinking about the next time that I can put more money into those accounts. So rather than taking the time to curate the shopping carts, I'm thinking about the next time I can make that transfer of that big chunk of cash into that savings account, and when I can start looking at that balance being a little bit bigger. So that is another cycle that I'm kind of seeing that is replacing the actual shopping cycle. It's the savings cycle. And I'm not feeling a lot of anxiety and stress buildup of, oh my God, when is the next time I'm going to be able to push the transfer button? No, but it is like just something that I'm thinking about. It. I'm kind of feeling like that shopping cycle is being replaced by a savings cycle. So at the end of the day, I mean, that's kind of my story. That's the financial journey that I have been on in this time of kind of stay safe at home in Colorado since I've been working from home. And, despite having been alone for the past 2 months, like I feel sane and I feel like I'm in control of my life for maybe the first time ever. And even though like all of these external things are happening that I have no control over, like I have an emergency fund, I have the ability to make it through whatever life throws at me. So yeah, that's kind of it. Final thoughts are, if you are somebody that is, struggling with what you would call a shopping addiction, compulsive shopping, impulsive shopping, to kind of take a step back and maybe look at your relationship with money as well. Not just your relationship with all of the stuff that money can buy. Look at how you feel about money, how money makes you feel, how having money makes you feel. Maybe just looking at the stuff is only looking at half of the issue, as it was for me. Because once I realized again that my underlying issue was my relationship with money, everything just fell into place, and it was just like a light shined down from heaven. And I know my light just went out, but it just keeps going out. I can't keep it on. I'm just gonna finish out the rest of the video without it. So yeah, once I realized that, it was just like, the light shined down and I understood it, and like I said, I felt in control. There was this factor, this old thing in my life that had control over me. And once I said, no, you don't get that anymore. You are a completely different person now. That is not who you are anymore. That does not have control over you anymore. You don't have to worry about that anymore. So just move forward and go towards the person you want to be, which is a person that has savings, that doesn't impulsively buy whatever my fancy may be that second or that minute or whatever. So I will see you in the next video. Bye.
Open up, you OPN, hit you on BBM, we should be closer than friends.